When President Trump makes his annual State of the Union address on Tuesday, a Democrat will sit on the rostrum on his shoulder for the first time. The presence of Speaker of the House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi D. Calif. Bring a new relief, not only the change of power on Capitol Hill, with the opposition party now able to thwart the president's agenda, but also the converging pressures about Trump who brought his presidency to a crossroads. Trump faced a political defeat with the government closing for 35 days. He has not gotten funds to build a border wall and is preparing to declare a national emergency to fulfill his campaign promise. He again disagrees with the nation's intelligence chiefs and some senators from his own party. The Russian investigation, which has arrested several allies of the president, seems to be coming to an end. New congressional oversight investigations will begin shortly, and the race to defeat him in the box begin in earnest. This is a turning point, said Chris Whipple, author of The Gatekeepers, a story of White House Chiefs of Staff. Time is running out. This is the last chance to really get things right. Are increasing at a time when Trump is as free and isolated as ever, and inside the White House, participants describe a chaotic, carefree atmosphere reminiscent of the first few weeks of Trump's presidency. The power was consolidated around presidential son-in-law Jared Kushner, a senior advisor who serves as White House Chief of Staff. Now that the counterweights deposed Chief of Staff John F. Kelly no longer exist, some advisors say that the West Wing feels like being on the 26th floor of the Trump Tower where unrestricted Trump had absolute control over his family business and he was free to follow their impulses. Mick Mulvaney, who replaced Kelly as an actor, said he was trying to manage the staff but not the president, according to government officials. He told his friends that he travels in and out of the Oval Office and meets only with Trump twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, for about 15 minutes each. When asked at a recent dinner if he was acting as a porter, Mulvaney laughed and said, "I'm not trying to stop you from doing things," officials said. "I do not think he's trying to mask the fact that he is functioning as head of a family business, rather than being the boss of one of the most powerful countries in the world," said Omarosa Manigault Newman, who starred in the reality show NBC Trump, The Apprentice, worked for him in the White House before the public quarreled with the president after she was fired. Trump's popularity, however, is paralyzed. Polls show that many more Americans blame for the closure Democrats and majority's growth disapprove of their job performance, despite Trump's administration a robust economy and its stated intentions to withdraw U.S. troops foreign wars unpopular. That raises the question of whether Tuesday, Trump could use his annual speech to a joint session of Congress and a primetime television audience to make a course correction and try to broaden his appeal or buried in conflict with the opposition party, mainly in relation to illegal immigration and border security. Trump said last week that his State of the Union would be in unification, but this question contradicts the president's combative instincts and indifference, even hostility, that he has shown toward the congressional negotiations. You can say the national unity bromo, but if you point people in the gallery and say, in fact, colored immigrants came to kill you, it would undermine any pretension, said Michael Waldman, who, as editor of White House Speeches, helped to close down the State of the Union of President Clinton after two closings of the government between 1995 and 1996. At other points, presidents facing a decline in the number of polls have chosen to be very conciliatory or very optimistic, Waldman said. When you do this, it feels like you're reading under pressure from the teleprompter, and everyone knows that when he returns to the White House, he's going to start tweeting again. Although the fight for a border fence has been one of Trump's main foci over the past 2 months, the president's aides said his speech would not be a Jeremiad focused on immigration but that it would set a government agenda for the next year. For example, Trump wants to talk about infrastructure development and the price of prescription drugs, two issues with broad bipartisan appeal, according to a top White House official. It is hoped that the president will also talk about foreign affairs and highlight the recent moves of his government in Venezuela to force President Nicolas Maduro to relinquish power, as well as the ongoing trade negotiations Trump with China and its planned summit still this month with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Meanwhile, conservative leaders are urging Trump to weave a heavy language on abortion after Virginia Governor Ralph Northam D., which had sparked protests across the country last week by comments interpreted as advocates of Infanticide Week. The officials said that Trump should raise the issue, which participants described as an effective way to increase their political base after he surrendered to the Democrats in January to end the stalemate. For Trump right now, this is going at the right time, said Republican researcher Frank Luntz. This speech tonight is not against what you're against. That's what you are. Tell the American people what you want to do and why. However, the natural disposition of Trump's struggle, and this isn't especially adverse to the president as he struggles to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border and punishes the Democrats in Congress now. The means of communication. Trump said he is about to declare a national emergency, which would have the executive powers try to redirect some federal funds to the construction of the border wall without congressional approval. We set the stage for what will happen, Trump said last week. It is likely that any such move will generate legal challenges and trigger a political storm, and some administration lawyers question the president's authority to do so, but plans for an emergency declaration have yet to be developed. Mulvaney told Trump that a national emergency would be viable and that he saw public funds to exercise the option. Officers from the Army Corps of Engineers reviewed draft statements identifying at least 3 companies that could begin work on the wall under non-bidding contracts, according to people familiar with management's planning. In the search for a wall, Trump has few options. I do not want another government stoppage, believing that he has been politically beaten in the past, and Democrats in the House made it clear that they will not vote to fund the construction of walls before the deadline of 15 February to approve a new national security spending bill. Senate Republicans are also extremely resilient in declaring a national emergency, according to 2 senior Republican advisors. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell RK warned Private Trump last week that this could split the Republican Party, and told the president that Congress could pass a resolution to disapprove an emergency statement. Representative Mark Meadows or NC, leader of the Conservative Caucus Freedom House and Trump confidant, said, "It's not your decision." No Senate chairman or not. Frankly, some of them ran for president. Preparing for what an ally called a snowstorm once the Democrats in the House of Representatives launched their promised investigation supervision, which should indicate the lead president and personal finances, as well as the alleged corruption in the administration. White House advocate Pat Cipollone and Deputy Attorney Michael Papura met with leaders of individual agencies to provide instructions on how to respond to follow-up requests and examine their staff. According to one person who attended the meeting, lawyers design strategies on what they hope to come, and Mulvaney has met with the agency's chiefs of staff to help them prepare. Chase Untermeyer, who served as director of the former President George H.W. Bush's presidential team, said he was perplexed. Trump left many key political posts in his administration vague or served by provisional officials. Regardless of the storm clouds, you must have a team fully deployed in the field, not just inside the White House but within departments and agencies, Untermeyer said. Meanwhile, Trump was meditating last week to a former White House aide, Cliff Sims, whose book says it all shows dysfunction and disloyalty in the West Wing. Officials brought snippets of Sims' book to the president and defended himself from the portrait of his former colleague, who, according to the consultants, only shook Trump, who dismissed the Sims as a low-level employee. Trump has focused less on the memories of former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who wrote sarcastically about Kushner, but sympathetically with the president, though he told his advisors that he has not loved Christie's comments during his tour of the media, according to a senior officer of the White House. The president was also angered by the news coverage of his intelligence leaders, including the Director of National Intelligence Daniel Coats, and his testimony before Congress, where they contradicted the president on various national security issues such as North Korea, Iran and the state of the Islamic State. But officials said he did not read the testimony, he only saw the news and was reassured when intelligence officials explained what they had told the senators. Over the weekend, Trump tried to escape the problems in Washington, making his first trip in 2 months to Mar-a-Lago. After spending Christmas at the White House, the president traveled to Palm Beach, Florida, where he played golf with two sports legends. Great day at Trump National Golf Club in Jupiter, Florida with Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. Trump tweeted on Saturday along with a photo of the three smiling.